And first of all, just thank you to everyone for coming in today and for being willing to share your experiences and insights to help us understand this particular dimension of disability. I think it's really important for the committee. And in all of our discussions at the committee, from healthcare, education, transport, families are always there in the background. Parents, siblings, relations, friends, all of course have an invaluable role in the life of disabled people or people with disabilities. And then when the state fails to provide the services disabled people and children with disabilities are entitled to, it falls to families to do what they can, to sacrifice, to campaign, fundraise, pay, all of those things. And while of course it's done with love and all of those things, the responsibility just shouldn't always fall on the shoulders of families. And I think it's fair to say that we're all struck by the extent of your work and the huge kind of difference and impact you're making for families and children with disabilities. And I think you could feel the urge in the room for that to be extended to more families. My questions, first for Parent Plus. In your opening statement, you explained how you hold parents in high esteem and recognise them as the experts of their families and their needs, and that point kind of stood out to me. From everything parents have told me, this kind of foundational position is missing in kind of many of the public services. So I just wonder if you could elaborate on why it's important and how it kind of manifests in operational purposes. And you outlined the success and challenges of working with CDNTs, and I think we all recognise that they're understaffed. We all have parents and families coming to us who are at their wits' end in relation to waiting lists and understaffing, all of those things. Could you explain how these connections could be developed and if there are kind of varieties in different regions, or what's your experience from families? And for Triple P, the scale and impact of your work, I think, is clear, and you've outlined how your programmes assist parents to encourage healthy behaviour and emotions in children with developmental disabilities. I just wonder if you could give us a sense of what it looks like practically, and what are your recommendations to ensure that parent training is embedded in current service and creates outcomes for children and families. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Kearns. In relation to your first question, as regards the strengths of parents, I think I spoke to one of the founders of Parents Plus. They've subsequently retired, and they were a consultant psychiatrist, and she put it really well. She said, parents know what is best for their own family. When you respect parents and you value that and you come together, she says professionals don't always have the solutions, and we need to work together to define what goals families are going to work towards to achieve for themselves, exactly what progressing disability is about. But our approach is about empowering parents to realise that they are their own resource. That's not to say they won't get the speech and language or the OT or the physio or all of those other very important and critical services. But at the end of the day, the family need to be empowered. The focus of each of our programmes, from the early years right through to the programme for families affected by intellectual disability, our Parenting When Separated, has 3 strands. And I let Ciara or one of the parents speak more succinctly about that, is around the focus on empowering the parent to support the child and improve outcomes there, on the parent's self-care, and on looking at the whole family. To add to that, and it might tie in well with the piece around understaffed, in relation to the special needs programme in particular, we are now working with services to identify parents who can be co-facilitators of this evidence-based programme, Niamh of which is one, and Wayne, who is another. The beauty of that, and having the professional, whether it's Ciara as a speech and language therapist, she's trained in all of the programmes and sees the impact. She has worked in the HSE for 20 odd years, sorry for giving away your secrets, and in a special school, and sees the value of working with families in this way. She would have steered a lot of this as well, and the respect the parents feel. Now that's not every parent is in that position where they can become a co-facilitator, but we recognise the value that that can add, of which they can speak to further. In terms of your question around understaffing, there's a number of issues, and there's been significant research to show that very often when resources are slim, the thing that will create the biggest impact is the thing that's pulled first. Because we've said it, Matt has talked about it, all the evidence shows that when you can give parents the evidence-based tools tailored to their family, the impact they can make to improve outcomes for not just the child with disability, the siblings that exist in that house that might be mini carers at the age of 4, as security guards in Tesco's, making sure the child doesn't flee, the parent, that community are significant. From our experience of being in this country, working in this charity and having all of that work that we've done with all of the services for 25 years, in particular for disability services at the moment in the last couple of years, and we know what's happening, and it isn't a criticism, they're contacting us and saying we don't have funding to train in your programme, so we feel panicked because we're trying to get money to fund them to deliver the programmes. Now, it's not a churn and burn, and I do have an issue with this. We can't just throw money at, oh, let's get everyone trained in these parenting programmes. It's about the planning. It's about working to build clusters of networks and communities across services. So I might only have one speech and language therapist in my team who's available to train in the programme, but you might have an OT, in another town or a couple of towns down the road. It's about that support. It's about that post-training implementation support. It's about, we've, an evidence-based quality protocol that's been built into the programme. We're building up the skills of the Progressing Disability Network team so that they then will have the ability to track outcomes, evaluate themselves. It's about, we give 2 free supervisions post-training because we recognise that all the evidence shows that once you add on that supervision component, that's where the magic happens. We could charge for it, but our focus is on impact. Maybe if I could ask if Wayne or Niamh, if you'd like to add anything in terms of your experience as parents and about the whole focus on strengths-based and empowering parents through the programmes that you have attended, and then maybe even to speak about becoming a facilitator.
Sure. Thank you. I first did this programme. I have a daughter who's 18 and she has an intellectual disability. She has autism, speech and language, cognitive disability. So my journey when Lauren was born was a very tough one. She wasn't able to communicate. I'm sorry, I'm getting upset now. Apologies. It's nerves too, so apologies.
You do not need to apologise now.
But my journey starting with her was tough because there was no communication. And I found that I had to fight for everything throughout all of the years, even getting into school, because she was refused from her first school before she'd even walked in the door. So, sorry. So I first heard about this programme from Ciara when my daughter was eventually diagnosed at the age of 12 privately with an intellectual disability, and she started in a special school. And that was when I met Ciara, who was a speech therapist there at the time. And Ciara was doing this programme, the special needs programme, and they were piloting it. And she asked, would I like to attend? And to be honest, at first, like most parents, I thought, I'm being offered this and I won't get the 6 half-hour speech therapies this year, or whatever the case may be. But it was explained that that wasn't the case. And one of the subjects that they were going to cover in this course was planning for the future. And I didn't know what was going to happen with Lauren when she left school. I just knew that she wasn't obviously going on to college, she couldn't get a job, and I didn't know where we stood. So I thought, I'll go on this course and we'll see what it's all about. And never have I been enlightened as I was on that programme, because I was in a room full of parents that were experiencing the same things I was, going through the same things, and it was just a safe place, and we were able to help each other. And it felt like my child wasn't different than everybody else's. I didn't have the school gates where you got to talk to other parents, because she was going to a special school, so she was picked up from home every day and brought in by private bus, so I didn't have that community. So this programme formed that community for me. And it helped me realise all the things that I was actually doing an injustice to my daughter, because I was protecting her too much. She didn't make her own lunches even. She was never left in the house because it might burn down. Like if she was there by herself. I never knew what she might do So in this programme, though, I learned how to make or give my child that ability to be independent. I realised that other parents were doing this and that I should be doing it, and I was doing a terrible disservice to my own daughter. So this programme, anyway, helped me grow that to the stage now that my daughter is 18. She's in adult services, which I learnt about in the programme as well. She's getting 2 buses there by herself. Since September, for the first time, she's actually walked into a shop and bought her own things. And it was all from the support that I actually got through the programme. And it was the first time I'd ever been offered this. I'd never been offered anything beforehand. When she was 2 and broke my nose, and I was crying down the phone to the district nurse asking for help because of the tantrums that she would throw. And there was nobody. There was nobody coming back to help me. There was nothing that was there. And if I had known about programmes like this that were out there, if I had known when she was younger, I guarantee you I would have done them then. And I think my journey would have been a more smoother one than it has been up till now. I don't know whether Wayne would want to...
Yeah, well done.
Sorry.
Well done, thank you. Wayne?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, my story was much the same, or our story. You know, for years we kind of fumbled about in the dark. The services were very intermittent. And I was offered an opportunity to take part in a focus group for Parents Plus, which I thought was just another one of these things thrown at us that wouldn't be any support. I said I'd go because I thought there might be somebody there I could complain to or give out to or, you know, vent. And what I did meet was we met 14 other people very similar to us whose experiences, they mirrored our experience. And it was, and again, you know, as Neil said, it was a really safe space to be. You could say the things that you'd been thinking that, you know, you wouldn't want anybody else to ever hear. Your worries, your anxieties. And the beautiful thing about it is that there was 14 experts in a whole range of different areas that we could tap into. You know, everybody there was at a different part in their journey. You know, so some kids were 6 or 7, and so the parents were just at the beginning. You know, there were people in the middle, and then there were people at the end. So there was this great sharing of information. It was a great, you know, it's funny when you get 14 or 16 people whom, you know, sometimes experience very, very negative home lives and, you know, social lives and all that, all laughing like children because we found our tribe, and they understood us and we understood them. There was a great sharing of information, and it felt like progress, where for years there didn't seem to be, but this was progress, and it was ours. And it was something that we could share, you know, with the people in the room. So it was invaluable. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Appreciate that. Matt, do you want to?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for the questions, Deputy Cairns. So you talked about me giving you a bit of a practical insight into the programme. So obviously Stepping Stones Triple P has got multiple different delivery formats, so some very light touch, one-to-one interventions. Let me just take the most common group programme that we deliver, which is a 9-week group programme, of which 3 of those weeks are actually telephone calls. So it's a 6-week group programme, 3 telephone calls where parents apply and start to implement the strategies they've set. It's a family-centred programme. Parents set their own goals. I think this is very much in the same as we've just heard the answers from Parents Plus as well. The key principle of Triple P is self-regulation. We're promoting parental self-regulation. We're giving parents and we're supporting them to develop their self-management skills, their self-efficacy, but to understand their own personal agency, to overcome challenges perhaps that they've seen in the past of I've tried this 1,000 times and nothing has worked, to acknowledge that, to sympathise with that, but to also say, here's some strategies which we know other people have tried. Would you like to have a go at one of those strategies? Helping parents problem solve so that we create self-sufficient parents. That's self-regulation. So